of this, that, and the third, and they're not seeing a therapist. They're just getting this amount of pills over and over and over and not getting the medical aspect behind it. No one's controlling how many they take, how many they, if it's the right dosage. I mean, 120 pills is a lot
to
give
a lot for
a veteran
anybody.
that doesn't have all the components that they need. Yeah.
So you have actually seen some folks that have had as many as 100 to 120 pills of different sorts, and that does seem
yes,
like
yes,
a lot
and
of
not
pills.
seeing a therapist. Yes, they get their monthly supply, and they're not getting the therapist. They're not medically going to appointments. They're just getting that monthly refill.
Wow. And are you dealing with any of the organizations that also deal with the whole concept of abuse as well? Because I know that both one of the organizations I work with, the HATAC Center, they have an NA meeting that meets regularly. So I do know that there are some veterans that are in the NA programs as well as the AA programs and things of that nature. So are you finding enough veterans are actually reaching out to these kind of support groups, be it NA, AA, or if they were here in Durham, be it like an organization like TOSA?
Yes, and that's also going to be in our covenants. We know that some of our veterans are going to have mental and, drug abuse. In our covenants, they will have to seek treatment, and they, will have to get into a program.
So that would be one of the requirements, is that they not just get the house, but that they also have to go through the various training programs. So it sounds like have you connected with some of the community colleges there in South Carolina as well to make sure that they're getting training in the vocational fields?
Yes, that's a part of the training. We connected with contractors. We've connected with painters. We've connected with people with auto body. We're connected with the community colleges. That's going to be all of the training that they're going to be, that's going to be offered to them, like I said, to get them to be beyond a minimum wage pay scale.
You definitely got to find ways to get it. And you might even want to, I don't know whether you connected, but you might also want to try to connect them with some of the computer fields as well, because a lot of times we're finding more and more people are actually learning these computer fields and are being trained in computer jobs. And, of course, those computer jobs pay even more in some cases than the auto mechanics and the welders. Not that I'm knocking those jobs, because those jobs can actually pay quite well also.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm writing that down now.
Yeah, you might definitely want to get in touch with them as well, because I know here in the Durham area we have a program called, I'm trying to think of it. Jillian, can you remember the name of the American Tobacco Program that trains kids in computer programming?
The American Tobacco Program?
Yeah, it's a program that trains folks.
There's the Iron Yard. Is that what you mean?
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
They don't.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, I don't know that they train kids. It's a training program. I think it's mostly for adults.
Right.
Typically, like people looking for a second career.
Right. That's what I think that's the one I was thinking about. I think there were a couple of other programs that they might have had as well that were geared more toward teenagers and other folks. But the one I was thinking about was definitely the Iron Yard. So that's the one that I had in mind.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. They might have some special programs, but I know like their main training program is for adults.
Okay. Yeah, but something like that might be something that you might want to look into, because there are programs like that throughout the country. I know that Bernard Worthy, who we will hopefully have on this show in the future, has done work with them, as has Jessica Aberhart, who's actually been on this show in the past. So there are folks that you might want to reach out to in terms of having that kind of background.
Oh, I sure will. Thank you so much.
No problem. Dean, what kind of programs do y'all have going up there in the New Jersey area with the NAACP that you might want to look into as well?
That's something that I will have to research, brother, because right offhand we do the, the social justice piece with the up here in the area where I am. We've had the meetings with the communities and law enforcement, and we've also had like the series where we teach letter writing, organizing, and things of that nature. So as far as breaking it down into where the assistance will come from, that's something I would have to actually research because we haven't gotten to that point yet.
Gotcha. And how are the veterans seem to be doing in the New Jersey area? I know that, like I said, we've had issues of veterans not doing that well here and trying to find housing and running into problems with the VA. But just in your own observations, how are the veterans seem to be doing in the Northeast?
The same way that they've treated veterans very poorly. Individuals signed up for service and signed a blank check payable with their lives if necessary. And then they've either done their term of service and gotten out or retired out, and it's almost like they're forgotten. You know, between veterans and ex-offenders, they're the two most ostracized populations that we have, if I can think right off of the top of my head, other than those that suffer from substance abuse issues. And the way that they're treated as far as, you know, especially if they have to go to like the VA for medical, anything medical, they're almost treated as guinea pigs. You know, the service is subpar where that service should be world class. So it's a very big problem nationwide. So it's not only in North Carolina or in New Jersey. It's all over. I have a friend who's a veteran down in Florida, and he has the hardest time every time he has to go for, you know, anything. He's like, man, I got to go back down to the VA, pray for me. And I'm like, golly, it shouldn't be that way. You know, unfortunately it is, and it's something that definitely needs to change. Like I said before, you know, while you're taking all of this money and you're sending it to these other countries, all right, you know what? Take care of home first. You got folks leaving the military with issues that need to be addressed. They don't have places to stay. They don't have jobs, you know, and it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. They're too old to re-enlist, or may have something that will keep them from re-enlisting, or maybe they just did their time. It's like, I'm done. I want to do something else. And then they come out and have to hit this brick wall in order to continue to live. And it's something that definitely needs to be changed. You know, that money that goes to wherever, in some country that 90% of us will never go to, could be used right here at home for training and all of that stuff, job readiness, you know, medical care, assistance, home assistance, everything like that, where it's like, all right, well, thank you for your service. Those 5 words are worthless, you know, when it comes to that.
And it's nothing that's really new, because I think about the times of the military and how the military has been, for lack of a better term, almost like a experiment ground. I think about like what the Tuskegee Airmen went through and things of that nature, where, you know, they were definitely being experimented on, and with a disease that was, you know, very delicate, you know, very detrimental to their health and everything. And there's known facts of what they were doing to those Tuskegee Airmen. But even when you think about like Agent Orange during Vietnam, and these folks that are still dealing with the impacts of Agent Orange, and who knows what chemicals we're dumping in those Middle Eastern countries that people are having to deal with the impacts of, and things of that nature. So this is something that has been going on for a while. Our government has definitely done a thing of using the military as almost like as an experimental ground for different things that they want to try to experiment on. And, you know, sometimes if they're also using those chemical warfare to try to destroy whatever the country is that we're supposedly fighting against, then a lot of times that stuff, you know, the wind blows both ways. So we're blood dumping it on them, and it's probably coming back to hit our folks as well. It doesn't have any sort of thing that's going to be discretionary, saying that, look, that's one of those folks that, say, if you want to take North Korea, for example, that's going to be hitting just the North Korean. No, if there are Americans down there, it's going to be hitting them as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's something that we definitely got to realize that, a lot of times.
We know we won't see it in the next 3 years, but hopefully the next individual that comes in will have some common sense and some humanity. I guess I'll put it in that order.
Right. Well, and we know that the impact of even the impact of the chemicals that are being dumped, we might not see for a while. I don't know that we necessarily saw the impact of Agent Orange until years afterwards, and then people started realizing some of the things that were happening to people either with their physical health or their mental health, and then they started going back and realizing that what was being dumped and what was in those weapons was impacting these folks. But, I'm sure some of the scientists and some of the generals may have known, but the common folks had no clue until the impact started hitting us, and we started seeing people have all kinds of different kinds of mental impacts or physical impacts with their physical health.
Right.
A lot of times we won't know until afterwards and everything. So definitely, I agree with you on. Hopefully, it won't be 3 years. Jillian, is there any possibility that we can get rid of that person in the White House before 3 years?
Sorry, which one?
I said, is there any possibility we can get rid of that person in the White House before 3 years?
Oh, there's possibilities, but none of them end that well. I mean, it's not like the vice president is going to do anything we want either, right? I mean, it's tricky because I think on the one hand, the fact that our president is so incompetent is actually helpful in some ways because he hasn't been able to implement much of his agenda as much as he would like to. We get someone with similar ideas who's more competent in there, we might be better off. Now, we might also be less likely to start a nuclear war with North Korea. So I think, there's pros and cons, but overall, getting him out of office, I think we need a holistic strategy to get somebody in there who isn't one of the people currently in line.
Yeah. Now that actually raises an interesting question. We had Lamont on not that long ago, and Lamont, of course, ran under a party that is neither Democratic or Republican. Do you think that there will ever be a time that we will have somebody in office that doesn't fall under one of those two party systems?
I mean, I think it's possible, but not without some serious changes to how we vote and how we count the votes in this country. Our whole system is basically designed for two parties. There really isn't room for a third party, and that's why every time a third party, comes up, one of the other parties either eventually loses any sort of authority, or that third party merges with one of the two. I mean, I think that if we had a completely different system, if we had more of a proportional representation system, if we had ranked choice voting so that people didn't feel like they were wasting a vote if you voted for a third-party candidate, reforms like, publicly funded elections so that candidates who weren't from one of the major parties could get some more exposure. If we had things like, mandatory voting, some countries you're required to vote, so that we had an actual accurate sense of what people want rather than a sense of what people who are able to vote want. If we changed all those things, I think we could have a third party person in office. We just don't right now. Our political system isn't set up for that. And I think that's what we need to change the political system before we could actually think about running a viable third-party candidate.
So, in other words, it's probably not going to happen in our lifetime.
Nah, yeah. I mean, I don't see it happening. But also, there could be a major shift. The state of Maine has recently approved a bill to use instant runoff voting for a lot of their state elections. And so that's going to give us some really good data on how that works, and like back